Welcome back into the Money Matters Radio Network. 203 June night, your host until 3 o'clock. 97 degrees outside and a heat advisory for 16 counties now until 7 o'clock tonight, especially at least here in Massachusetts. I don't know about Vermont or Maine or Connecticut or any of that. But anyhow, my new guest for the half hour, my co-host, Gregory Sheehan. He is an attorney who practices in federal immigration assistance, estate and business planning, and personal injury representation. But today, we're going to be talking about that federal immigration assistance. Welcome, Gregory Sheehan.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for coming in today.
Sure.
Okay, so you drove up from Plymouth.
I did.
Just the fact that you did that, you get, big high five from me. Thank you for coming up Route 3
Sure.
On a big vacation week, because I know that's been a problem with traffic. Anyhow, tell me a little bit about you, Gregory Sheehan, and, your background and history, if you will.
Sure. I got my undergraduate degree from the University of Massachusetts at Lowell, and then I got my law degree and my MBA out at Western New England College in Springfield. I've been practicing federal immigration law. It's been a growing part of my practice for the past 3 years. That's where I get most of my business. Well, I still do some representation in estate planning, personal injury, things like that.
Okay, and how did you get motivated? How did you get interested in the federal immigration side of things? Where did that come up?
That's a good question. It came just from talking to people about what they did. When I first wanted to be an attorney, I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do, so I spoke with other immigration attorneys, and I found out that it's a pretty good ideal to be basically selling access to the American dream, and that's what we do as immigration attorneys, and I think that's a pretty good way to go. And then I saw through examples with families and friends who needed immigration assistance, I kind of said, so what are you doing here, and what are you doing there? And I started to learn, and then assist, and then help other clients on my own.
And this is mostly illegal immigrants?
No,
for the most part, or
no.
I have just any immigrants?
Yeah, I mean, there's a distinction. People that have access, people that qualify to immigration benefits don't always know it, so they'll call me to see if they qualify. And if they do, I can help them. I do have to turn people away, unfortunately, and say, now's not the right time for you to come to the United States, or you don't necessarily qualify.
Okay, so it's people that are not in the United States.
Usually, or somebody who has overstayed a visa that still has access to come to the United States legally. We can still help them that way.
Okay. So, of course, immigration being a huge topic in the news these days, please tell us, how does the U.S. currently administer those federal immigration laws? Right.
Well, it used to be done through INS, and then since September 11th, basically our Homeland Security got reconfigured. So now immigration law goes through Department of State in some cases, the Department of Labor. Department of Homeland Security is now basically in charge of USCIS, Customs and Border Patrol, ICE. So there's really so many areas for, somebody who wants to come to the United States has to deal with so many different agencies, it can be confusing.
And what happens? Do they get caught up in the red tape? Tell us some stories. Maybe.
Well, sure. I mean, it can be anything. A lot of people will try to save money and try to save time and do it on their own, and then they come to me when they find out, oh, I made a mistake, I need some help, and then, it could be any number of reasons why they come to me. But usually that's where we'll either step in at the beginning and say, here's what you need to do, or we'll say, okay, here's what you've done so far, and here's how you finish.
What's the most common mistake that you see out there that's happening for the most part?
The most common mistake that I see with the most serious implications is something as small as if somebody moves and doesn't tell the United States formally that they've changed their address. Within a very short window, there can be serious implications such as a denial, or even somebody could be subject to removal proceedings, have to stand in front of an immigration judge and say, please don't exile me, please don't take me away from my family, I only changed my address. So, there's many ways for somebody to get caught up.
Okay, so let's talk about the qualifications, if you will. What are some of those qualifications that people have to go through?
Okay. Basically, United States law has said we want people from all over the world to come to the United States, but you need a reason to come here. And so there's numerous visas. You can be an athlete, you can be a top doctor, or you can just be married to a U.S. citizen. You can be the brother of somebody who's here legally. So if you have, the qualifying U.S. connection, then we can at least get the paperwork started. So that's what most people need. It can be a business who wants to invite the top doctors from Harvard Medical School to get the proper visas to be able to work for them all over the country. So there's really so many areas to go.
And then once they meet that qualification, then what happens in the next step?
Then the paperwork begins, where we basically say to the United States, now let me backtrack. It could be for a visa application, or it could be for a green card application, or it could be for a citizenship application. So there's different areas to go. There's different people in the government that we ask, and we alert, and we say, hey, we think this person qualifies. Here's our application. Here's our supporting evidence to show that this person qualifies. And then eventually the United States is going to have that person in for an interview. If it's somebody overseas, they would meet at the embassy. If it's somebody that's already here, they would meet in Boston.
Greg, how long does it take normally, like on average, for somebody overseas to get a visa to come here?
Generally there's certain countries where there's no visa required, where you can just visit, just like if you want to go to Ireland, you could just get a passport, and we keep things simple with different countries. So if you're from a country that can come here on the visa waiver program, it's pretty easy. But if you need a visa, then setting up the application, setting up the interview appointment, setting up the evidence, it can take about 5 months for somebody to get over here.
Because, okay, so I have a friend, one of my best friends that I grew up with. She married a guy. He lives in England, so she's been living in England for 6-7 years. And he promised her, we'll come back and live in the States after we've been married a few years. It's been 7.
Yeah.
And they love it over there, and she loves it over there too. But she's like, okay, she's starting to get itchy. I want to go back and see my family. What does he have to do, basically, to come here and live here with her?
So to migrate to the United States, so to immigrate into the United States, he would need a spouse visa. We would make sure that they meet the proper qualifications. So like you said, he is married to a U.S. citizen. Your friend's a U.S. citizen, correct?
Yes.
All right. So that's the initial qualification. She would need to be able to make enough money to support him financially, because we want to make sure that everybody who comes here through a U.S. citizen has somebody to vouch for them financially.
Oh, wow, really?
Yes.
So but say she's not back here yet. She'd have to get a job here and then prove it?
Well, she would use her current income right now, and and then to qualify for the spouse visa, that's the initial part of the equation. And then when they come over here, he can probably start working too.
Oh, he'll definitely be working.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'll definitely be working when he gets there.
But the financial part of the equation, like you've noticed, this is why it's so tricky, because we've got different situations. You've got different jurisdictions. So aside from, somebody coming to the United States from England, where it's fairly easy, it might be more difficult from another country.
Oh, okay. So England is easy.
England is pretty easy because you can come and visit. We've got a pretty much established history with the UK. Happy 4th of July, by the way.
Yeah, that's right. Happy 4th.
Right. So generally what you'll see is somebody come here and visit for a little while. So they'll get used to the United States together to see if they want to move here. And that's pretty easy to do from the UK.
Okay. So say how long if he applies for a spouse visa?
That would take about 5 months.
That's
it? We're going to need to put the evidence together. We're going to need to set up an interview appointment and then make sure that everything goes smoothly so that he can get the visa. And then the visa... Basically, the process works like this. When somebody's overseas, we apply from within the U.S., and we ask for a visa from the U.S., and then if that visa is approved, then it gets sent off to the embassy in London, we'll say. So now he goes for the interview in London, and they say, okay, we'll give you the spouse visa. And he takes the visa stamp, and he goes to Customs and Border Patrols when he flies into Boston, we'll say, and then they look at the visa, they look at the qualifications. It can be pretty simple, or it can take a couple hours, sitting here at Logan on a day like this.
Because I don't think he's applied yet, and it sounds like a lot of work.
Right.
I mean, just to come here.
It is.
But, I mean, it's worth it in the end.
Yeah.
But once he applies, then I can see why somebody would put it off.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, it's a lot of paperwork. It's a lot of headache. It's a lot of questionings. And it's a huge decision to come to the United States to move with a spouse. So it's...
Is it worse than when she went to England with him? And married him?
Meaning?
Did she go through just as much red tape to get there?
Oh, now that's a question I think of, what it's like to immigrate to the UK.
To the UK.
So
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure.
Okay, but the U.S. is it's good that they're tough in a way, though.
Well, yeah, we want them to be tough. We want our borders to be protected, and we want to give people access to the United States, and we want everybody to, have to really prove themselves to be here.
Okay, the music's here. We're going to take a little bit of a break. We will
Sure.
be back.
Exciting.
On Money Matters Radio Network.